Thank you very much for your beautiful words, District Director Danga. That was a beautiful welcoming to our session today. It is an honor to take part of this workshop, Parliamentary Procedures in Action. And tonight, Division K of District 75 is pleased to welcome a very distinguished guest to continue its lecture and leadership series. Before I introduce our speaker, I'd like to remind you all of a few housekeeping rules. First, please mute your microphones and ensure that they stay muted throughout the presentation. This is so our speaker is able to complete his presentation without any interruptions and that everyone is able to hear. If your microphone is not muted, the co-hosts will probably go through and mute you on their own. Sorry. Also, please keep your videos off so that our bandwidth is not eaten up by everyone showing their faces, although we will have time to see you at the end for a group photo. We will have a question and answer session at the end of the presentation, which will last for about an hour. The Q&A session is slated to take about 30 minutes. If you have any questions during the presentation, you can either hold them till the end to ask yourself, or if you'd like, you can send them to myself or one of the co-hosts in the group. We will compile the questions and then ask them during the Q&A session at the end. Now, ladies and gentlemen, with that being said, I'd like to introduce our speaker this evening. Distinguished Toastmaster and 2019-2020 Region 11 Advisor Ali Shahbaz Ali is a senior lecturer at Bahrain University, an educator, and an entrepreneur with a research focus in robotics and artificial intelligence. Ali began his Toastmasters journey in 2004 and has since flourished in a number of leadership positions. In 2016 to 2017, he served as the district director of the largest district in the world at the time, with a territory encompassing over 360 clubs spread throughout the whole of the Middle East. He is currently finishing his term as the Region 11 Advisor, which covers the Middle East, Africa, and Pakistan. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Region Advisor and Distinguished Toastmaster Ali Shahbaz Ali.
Thank you. Thank you, Marcie. Am I audible there?
Yes, you are.
Thank you, Marcie, for that wonderful introduction, our incoming region advisor. And I also acknowledge few region advisors who are on the call, district leaders of District 75 and members from around the world. First of all, apologies from the tech side. We unfortunately lost nearly 50 minutes to get things sorted out. But these are the times when we learn through all the challenges we are facing. One is with COVID-19 already, and nobody here is a tech expert. Yes, I did some research work in robotics and cloud computing, artificial intelligence, but the way Zoom works, their algorithm, I seriously don't understand. It's like our virtual world is in the mercy of few platforms, and we have to go by that. Since we lost 15 minutes already, and for us here in the Middle East, in another 1 hour, 15 minutes, we have, since it's the month of Ramadan, and probably everybody knows that in the month of Ramadan, we fast, and we have 1 hour, 15 minutes to break our fast, but we'll see what we can cover with the lost time already. Now, today's session is about parliamentary procedures. I'll just try to go quick over the slides with what was already planned. While Marcie was introducing me and while our amazing district director was talking, you know, I was figuring out what slides now should I remove. But what I'm going to do is I'm not going to remove anything now, but I'll just rush through it so we can enjoy, have more question answers. That would be more beneficial as well. When we talk about parliamentary procedures, the actual workshop, or I'll just show you the book. This is what the book looks like. That's it's a virtual background, but this is how thick the book is. And the book has only, including the index part, around, or you know what, I'll just skip the index part. the book is big enough. Let's say it has around 669 pages. Okay, so that's how thick is the book. Usually this workshop is more of a workshop which works when people are sitting in a traditional workshop setup where they can see each other. We have few tables to go. I was talking to the organizers, maybe once we do this workshop again, once we are done with the basic for District 75, we might have different breakout rooms. We will split different team. We'll split the group in different teams and have facilitators in every breakout room, so people can benefit more from giving more time to every single motion. That's important for us to run our regular Toastmasters business session. And as we grow as leaders, also we need to understand such rules. Being part of a district excom, district council, area excom, area council, division council, or any meeting which we want to finish effectively, more efficiently, parliamentary procedures are very important. Now, these kind of topics are something like, when mothers, they want to give their kids some broccolis to have, or anything what's healthy, and healthy stuff is not always so tasty, right? So they just add some sugar or some honey into it and they give it to them. Now, what I'm going to do is something similar. The topic is very serious, but I'll try my best to make it quite basic, quite understandable to what is needed for us in our regular meetings. And because of the lack of time, let's see how much we can cover. Okay, here we go. Parliamentary procedures is a set of rules to help groups achieve their objectives. That's very important. It's code of ethics. Parliamentary procedures is founded on democratic principles. It teaches us concept of teamwork, helps us to transact business quickly, efficiently. And these are some reasons why parliamentary procedures, from many other reasons why parliamentary procedures. Now, this is what the book tells us about parliamentary procedures. And I remember, just to give you a background, back in 2004 and 5, when I was the club president, or I was actively involved in Club XCOM, one of my mentors happens to be in Philippines, and he is none other than DTM Ali Shahbaz Ali, and he was in the Middle East here with us. So we were in the same club, and I was in the Filipino Club Toastmasters. So we go back then. And DTM Ali Shahbaz pushed me and many others to learn parliamentary procedures, have meetings effectively. So I picked it from there, and I said, wow, I'm getting better at it. And in fact, I started reading the parliamentary procedures books more than any other books in Toastmasters. And that's how my interest was created to go in leadership and take interest in parliamentary procedures. So thank you, DTM Nomel, for all what you are doing, what you have done in Middle East, and what you're continuing to do in Philippines and in the Toastmasters movement as a whole. So Robert Rules of Order, many of you know that the moment we say rules of order, we immediately think of Robert's Rules of Order. And thanks to one man who initiated this framework of rules of order, which is very common, followed not just by Toastmasters, but other non-profit organizations, and also some profit organizations as well. It's a proven fact that I've compared few rules of orders, and it's a proven fact that Robert Rules of Orders is more easier to understand and implement, and it has improved over time. Now, thanks to late Henry Martin Robert, who came up with this code of practices, which is Robert Rules of Orders in front of us today. He was a US Army major. He was a very civil person involved in in different community, in different societies, in gatherings of local church around him. So one fine day, I was supposed to give more introduction, but lack of time. Um, it was like one long winter when he was stationed as an army person. He started actually making use of that time where he could keep a watchover on his base and also start writing Robert Rules of Order or Parliamentary Code of Ethics. Here is because he attended a few meetings and he realized the meetings are getting longer, there are a lot of conflicts. So why not start writing some instructional codes to have efficient meeting? And he started doing that. And today what we have is the 11th edition, which is Robert Rules of Order newly revised. So here it is. Okay, thanks to the virtual background, you can't see that, but that's the one. You can find it on Amazon.com. So it's Robert Rules of Order newly revised. It's the 11th edition, and so far that's the latest one. When I joined Toastmasters, I was using the 10th edition. So here are the authors who have been working, and for the 11th edition, this is the final list so far, what is available to us. Now, why Robert Rules of Order? For us Toastmasters, it's recommended in our district leadership handbook, other documents that members who assume or who take up leadership roles, the best reference would be Robert Rules of Order. Unless there is some very rare chances that if it is a corporate club, maybe, I'm just giving an example. If it is a corporate club and they have some other rules of orders they want to follow, not just for their board meetings, but also they implement that in their Toastmasters meetings. So that's totally a different scenario. But I haven't seen a scenario where Robert Rules of Orders was like, no, we don't want to use it. You know, we are good with some other rules of order. So I'm yet to see such a scenario. Now, a quick basic definitions, what you need to understand with the rules of order. We need to have a quorum to make sure a business can be transacted, motions can be adopted or rejected. Quorum is the minimum number of members required to transact business, or minimum number of voters, I can say. We have to understand what is a constitution, an organization's fundamental governing principles. A constitution can be like name of the organization, the purpose, objectives of the organization, and few such details, which is kind of the skeleton of the organization. Bylaws are more, they work more on operational level. How would this organization operate? Now, constitution, it's very rigid. You cannot just go and change it every time. Same thing happens with the bylaws. We have something in Toastmasters. If you might have seen Form 6A, when we charter a new club, or when you go to Club Central, you will see you can make certain changes. Those are the standing rules. For example, in standing rules, you can say our club meets every Monday, 8 p.m. So this is something what you can change, but within the framework which has been given to us by the Constitution and the bylaws. Motion is a formal proposal that an action can be taken. Presiding officer is the one who chairs the such meeting. In our case, in regular club meetings, it can be the president. In area council, it's the area director, then division director, then the district director, and so on. At the World Convention, it's the international president. And then standing rules, details concerning administration of the organization. So these are the standing rules where we need to understand few things what we want to change. For example, I still remember back in 2005 in the club where I was the president, we came up with some rules and regulations. I still remember the funny one which we put, and which it helped us to improve as Toastmasters. What was that? We got a rule that if DTMs make more than 5 Rs and ohms, they pay certain amount to the club treasurer, a small amount before they leave the meeting. So that helped us a lot. So some members were like, no, we cannot make these rules. But when we made them understand the blessings in disguise behind such motions, they said, yes, let's go for it for the sake of fun. We had many other rules. If a member does not show up in our club for a certain number of meetings, but just shows up for speech contest, just for the sake of speech contest. Um, for example, if the member does not show continuously for 3 meetings, that member goes in inactive status and cannot actually contest or cannot take roles. So there are different uh, standing rules what we can make for our clubs on how the club will benefit. Let's go to some fundamental principles. Um, I'm just moving my screen always. I'll just put it on one side. Some fundamental principles to facilitate action, not to obstruct it. Now, any knowledge, um, we can use it like there's a good side, there's a bad side. It's like a sword. In Toastmasters, keeping all the core values, we need to understand parliamentary procedures or anything that we know. I remember when Pathways was rolled out and people who were very good at the base camp, they became the superheroes, just like Marvel Comics or DC, Marvel or DC Comics, that we are the guys you need to come to for Pathways. And at sometimes I did feel, there is kind of an arrogant behavior. Hey, what happened to you? We all will learn eventually. Base camp will be always there. Same thing with parliamentary procedures. There are no experts. Everybody's learning. I'm learning. And, we learn to do new things as it fits a scenario, and we are like, okay, this can also work. Just like what happened today. We tried 2 links for Zoom. It didn't work. Then we tried the final one, and it's working now. So these are some fundamentals for parliamentary procedures. At times, we might see a chair who might be a new president in a club full of DTMs or people who know procedures better. So we don't have to learn parliamentary procedures to put the chair down, or to show the chair, what, we know better. It's nothing like this in Toastmasters. So it's to enable the assembly to express its will, to give every member a fair hearing, to maintain order, justice and courtesy for all, do only one thing at a time. That's very important. The majority rules, the minority has the right to be heard. These are some items where what our regular business session would look like. Now, you might not need to put everything there, but these details would also help for new members or guests coming in to understand, okay, they have a business session and this is what they do. But you can just put the main items if you wish. It all goes on what your club follows, what's your club culture. So call to order, and there are ways to call the meeting to order. The gavel which they give to the president or to the officers during installation ceremony. If this was a full-fledged workshop, uh, I mean, we had 2 hours plus. Even gavel is very important. The use of the gavel and how many taps means what. So that's very important when we call the meeting to order. Reading and approving minutes of the previous meeting, reports of the officers and standing committees. And standing committees could be, for example, in a Toastmasters environment, it could be the social and reception committee, education committee, PR committee. So these are some examples of standing committees, or you can decide as a club what would be your permanent committee, or at least something like a permanent committee in a quality assurance committee in a club, which would report on the quality aspects of the club, on branding, for example. How is that happening? Or similar committees which are not for a temporary reason, but they are they're going to help in a long run. Special committees could be, our club decided to go for a picnic, speech marathon, or go for a movie together. I'm just trying to come up with some ideas here. And these are some special committees created for special purposes. Yeah, by the way, let me stick to the serious part as well. It could be even the club leadership committee giving their report in this section, okay? Or the audit committee giving their report on the audit. Special orders could be in our club election, could be our club elections in our scenario. These are some, this is an example of special orders. Unfinished business would be something what was laid on the table in the last meeting, but we couldn't finish it for some reason, and this is the unfinished business part. And then we have the new business, and finally the adjournment. Now, many people contact me on basic procedures, and that is something we need to know. There's no gray area here. To make a motion, there are some basic procedures which we need to understand. Member makes, first of all, a member has to be recognized in most of the motions, and we'll come to that part also. After recognition, member makes a motion, another member seconds the motion, presiding officer places the motion to the group. Now, I'll give you an example of member makes a motion. I move that we change the meeting day from Monday to Tuesday. That's a motion. But somebody needs to second this, okay? Most of the motions require a second. So once it is seconded and the presiding officer places the motion in front of the people or the house, at that time, this becomes a property of the house. It's not like, Madam President, okay, I changed my mind, I take my motion back. It doesn't work this way always. There is a motion to withdraw what is being placed in front of the house, what's being voted upon, but it's not a matter of joke. We can't act silly during the business session. We have to be very serious on what we do, what we say in the business session. So once the president hears and places the motion in front of the house, here is where it becomes a property of the house. The motion is now open to debate, motion is put on vote, and then the president announces the results. Now, this is the chart. I have a hard copy also with me. I just thought I'll show you what is very important. We have different kind of motions: privilege motions, subsidiary motions, main motion, incidental motions. Now, the first 13, what you see are in the order of priority. Now, let's go to number 13, which is the original motion. I said, I move that we move the meeting time from Monday to Tuesday. Now, what you need to understand, audience, I'm just going in a rush, but if there are any question, send it to the host and we'll take it up later. Okay, that's because of the lack of time. So I move that we change our meeting day from Monday to Tuesday. Now, if I said that, it is seconded, the president put it in front of the house. Somebody can get up and say, can we postpone that indefinitely? So now you see the motion, the main motion can be effected. And it can be effected with what you see is number 12, postponed indefinitely. It can be effected with number 11. You can amend the motion, and it goes all the way till you actually adjourn the meeting. Now, some people do that, but they don't realize there's a bigger motion than adjourning the meeting. Adjourn, as you see on your screen, is number 2. But number 1 is fix the time to which to adjourn. Now, in some cases, over my 17 years approximately in Toastmasters, what I've seen is, in some cases, there's a smart person sitting out there says, I want to adjourn the meeting. And then such motion is, we cannot amend, we cannot debate on it. And once seconded, it goes to vote. But this is where the head or the chair does not know what the catch here is. What can the chair do, or what can the audience do here? So they just go for vote and the meeting is adjourned. But there is one more thing, and that happened in one of the district council, by the way. There was a heated argument and somebody tried to just get up and say, I adjourn the council. So this is where it's very important to understand that the last and the most important one is, or in the highest of motions or order of precedence, we see fix the time to which to adjourn. Okay, and we'll come to each one now. Subsidiary motion. Now what we are going to do is, in the chart as we see, we are going to go from in this order. Number one is less powerful, and as we go, it becomes more powerful till we go to number 7, lay on the table. And these are the subsidiary motions. Now, subsidiary motions can impact a motion directly. For example, you can amend the motion, you can postpone it to another time, you can say, let us put it in the shelf, lay on the table, and let us discuss this some other time. And that comes under our old business in the next meeting, for example. So let's look at it one by one. We have these motions here: postpone indefinitely, group avoids, direct vote on the main motion. We don't want this motion to impact the current situation, and we don't want to kill the motion. So what we are saying, we don't want to harm anyone by the people who are with the motion, or people who are against the motion. So we just say, guys, you know what, let us postpone this and discuss it some other time. There are a lot of emotions involved right now. We cannot discuss this. Okay, these are some, this is a best example what I could think of. Amend, and amend is something where we are not killing the motion, we are just adding stuff to it. I want to move the meeting from Monday to Tuesday. Now I want to amend it by adding a word in, so in a mall or in a venue. Okay, and then it can be further amended in a venue 200, let's take it like 200 meters near the original venue, for example. You know, so we can amend it once, we can amend it twice, but there are maximum of 2 amendments for most of the motions. So we can refer it to a committee. We would feel taking a decision on changing the day of the meeting right now won't be a good idea, right? There are a lot of study we need to do. For example, we need to check in this city how many clubs are meeting on Tuesdays. So if I'm going to shift from Monday to Tuesday, it will be like, you know, it might be a problem for dual or triple members, which is a common fashion nowadays. They have other commitments on Tuesdays. So let us give it to a committee to study. Postpone to a certain time. This is something logical. We don't want to take a decision today. We don't want to take a decision next week. Let us finish the speech contest and then come back to this motion. Or let us see how many members don't renew and then come back and discuss this in the month of May, for example, if you are doing this in April, given that we got an extension for this year. Limit or extend the limits of the debate. For example, our business is going too long, we don't have time, so let's limit. So if that is accepted by the House, the President would not allow 10 speakers on both sides to speak. The President or the Chair would say, that's it, 2 speakers and 2 speakers, for example. Okay, and if the Chair does this, 2 speakers and 2 speakers, there is another motion where you can appeal to the Chair also, and we'll come to that. Previous question. Now, suppose if you see the debate is going on for like very long time and there is no way out, people are bursting out with emotions, you see, no, there will be a problem, you can move this motion, which has a good precedence in subsidiary motion, and it's ranked, it's ranked like almost second last in the subsidiary motion. So here is what you can do is close the debate and move to the original question. You say, I move that, we go to the question. I move to the previous question. So what the Chair does, if this is adopted by the House, what the Chair can do here is just have a vote, finish this, and we vote on the business. Let's call it a night, you know. So the last motion is lay on the table. We put this motion aside for now. There are many other things to discuss. And once you lay on the table, it can come in automatically or by default in the business session of the immediate next meeting. A quick look at this. I actually prepared, I don't know if you all know, but there is a software called Kahoot.it. I've done this workshop before with some people, at least in the Middle East. They would be knowing this. I prepared Kahoot.it where people can join and we would have some fun answering these questions. But let us go through this quickly. Postpone indefinitely, which I explained. I'll just give you some background here. Once somebody is trying to postpone a main motion, postpone indefinitely, that speaker cannot be interrupted by anyone. It requires a second. It is debatable, but it cannot be amended. It's not amendable. It requires majority of votes, which is normally 50% plus 1. Okay, that's a normal votes we need in lots of motions. But we'll study where do we need a little more than that. And a little more than that is the 2/3 of the voters. So let's look at this now. I move that the motion to buy dinner for all club members be postponed indefinitely. A member said this, there is a second, and the president says it is moved and seconded that the motion to buy dinner for all club members be postponed indefinitely. Okay, and it can be debated, and we go for the voting after this, once the president or the chair feels the debate is done. Now, we should always remember that these motions, which are the subsidiary motions most of the times, or almost all the times, should be connected to the original motion. It shouldn't be like the original motion goes east and the postpone indefinitely or other motions which should be organically connected to the main motion are going west. So that shouldn't be the case. To amend. Now, this is a very interesting one. I won't touch the purpose because I've kind of explained it. Why do we need amendment? But you can take a screenshot or you can have a look at this. You may interrupt. No, you cannot interrupt the speaker when they are giving, they are stating an amendment to the original motion. It can be debated and it can be amended once again. So voting procedure is the same, majority 50% plus 1. So let's look at the examples so we understand the nature of this motion. I move to amend by striking out dinner and inserting breakfast. So that changed the whole kind of, it changed, there is still plan to eat, okay? There is a lot of feast to do, but here what we did is we removed dinner and we inserted breakfast. So it changes the motion in a way. The nature is not changed, but it's like the main pillar is somewhere gone, and some smart people do this. It happened once, in a district council. You see, we were 8 countries, and then we were 7 countries in the Middle East before reforming it into 5 districts today in the Middle East. So in one of the council, there was a lot of debate. For example, we wanted the district conference, like members wanted, and I was the chair at that time. So there was a lot of debate to take the district annual conference to Kuwait, but one smart person got up, and that smart person is, by the way, he's one of my good friends, happens to be in Philippines. I won't take his name. He's back in Philippines. So what he did, my laptop is going out of charge. I'll just connect this. Okay, it's connected. So district 75, you can relax. My laptop is back in charge. So here is what happened. This good friend of mine gets up and says, I move to amend, we remove Kuwait and we insert Qatar. And people didn't know what to do. And some who were not listening, they still probably thought it is still Kuwait. And when the president, or when I asked the council, okay, let's go for the question. How many of you are in favor? Say aye. Everybody was like aye. Only for few of them who came to me during the break, they asked me, Ali, wasn't it supposed to be Kuwait? I said, guys, you were not listening. So there was an amendment to strike out Kuwait and put Qatar there. So this is what happened. Um, so it's very important to understand the amend motion. It's because it's smartly used by experts in parliamentary procedures. So once we remove the breakfast, now there is another amendment. The previous one was strike. Now we are inserting some new words. Let's look at the example. I move to amend the pending amendment by inserting the words at McDonald's after breakfast. So here what I'm doing is I'm not just um, saying that we need to have a breakfast, but also I'm giving some more information. Where do we have the breakfast? So this is an amendment. Now the beauty about amendment is, if we are going for voting, we are done with the debate. In this case, first we vote for McDonald's. Are we going to have breakfast in McDonald's or not? Once we are done with the secondary amendment, then we move to the primary amendment. Okay, the primary amendment was we strike breakfast, we strike dinner, and we went for breakfast. Are we going for the breakfast? So we vote for that. And then we go to the original one. Because the pillar was gone, was striked off, we remove dinner, we put breakfast. So it can be just, for example, okay, we will vote for the motion as amended and we'll go ahead with it. Now that's just a parliamentary formality we need to do. Because what if majority votes, you know what, just forget about the whole thing, drop the whole thing. If they say to the main motion, all no, everything is lost. So they still have that opportunity. Commit or refer. Let's look at the example. I move to refer this motion to this social committee. So now the chair can say it is moved and seconded that the motion to buy lunch for all, okay, that was supposed to be breakfast, okay, no issues, to buy lunch for all club members be referred to a social committee. Is there any discussion on the motion to refer? Now, just look at this structure quickly. We cannot interrupt the speaker. Second is required. It is debatable. It is amended under certain conditions, and it requires a majority to vote. Now, what if somebody made this motion saying that let's refer it to a social committee? But is there enough time to just for the matter of lunch, breakfast, or dinner for a committee to study? Or do we have that much time? Our club got 9 goals, for example, and we want to celebrate. We want to go for a meal. We want to have a nice breakfast or a nice dinner. Why do you want to give it to a committee to study? You know, so it doesn't make sense. Okay, so these are some examples I'm just giving in a very quick fashion. Postpone to a certain time, very straightforward. Let's look at the example again, just like the previous one. I move, postpone the motion to our next meeting. Straight, simple. Okay. Now, one thing you need to understand is the chart of motions. Most of you, when you would be doing parliamentary procedures workshop, you will get a chart like this. Okay. And this chart should be, I would say, a gospel for chairs all around, whether they are presidents, whether they are district directors. Now, I have been a parliamentarian in many district councils over the years. So I just simply carry this document with me. First, I used to carry my book, and then I came up with a file I made. I have a transparent sheet like this with me. It has a lot of papers laminated. So now I have just come down just to this page. I just need to carry this. Okay, so the chart of motions, you can make your own chart, by the way. You don't have to stick to something what has been given to you. Some people find this chart very hard. You know, some people have their own notes. Okay, so now this is a very simple for motion, postpone to a certain time, limit or extend limits of the debate. No problem at all. It's quite clear. I move that the debate on pending motion be limited to 10 minutes. Now, something different here from the other motions. This is one of those subsidiary motion, and there is more, where you need 2/3 of the people sitting in the House to vote, not just the majority. So it's not 50% plus one. It is almost, say, 75% of the people sitting there, 2/3 of the people sitting there. So they must vote yes for this motion. And it's fair enough. And this is why I was saying that 11th edition has covered a lot of issues which were not covered previously, and they are time tested. I'm just wondering what the next edition will have, because I feel this is a complete book of procedures what we are having. And we are lucky that in Toastmasters International, they are actually preparing us for this. I in my previous place of work was sitting in a meeting with deans, with people from the top, I would say, hierarchy. And when I was discussing motions and quorums, the trained admin manager was shocked and happened to ask me, "Excuse me, where did you learn all these things, quorum and motions? I've gone for a special conference and I'm surprised you know about it." And that's it, you know, we Toastmasters. I just brought Toastmasters and that's all. She wanted to join Toastmasters immediately. So all what benefits what we are getting from Toastmasters is amazing. So parliamentary procedures is just one to it. I'm waiting for attending a workshop, which is kind of advanced evaluate to motivate thing happening next week in our district. So going to the next thing, which is the previous question. Plain and simple, close the debate. I move the previous question. Some people say, let's go to the question. I move to the question. I move to the previous question. As far as the chair understands what the person is trying to say, it's all good. And even that requires 2/3 of the people to vote to close all the debate and just go and vote for the main motion. Lay on the table. We are not sure what we are going to do with this motion. So we just say, lay on the table, or we notice some big dignitary has walked in the meeting from the town, a mayor has walked in, or any VIP has walked in, or there are a bundle of guests who have walked in our meeting and we don't want to discuss club matters in front of them. And here is what we can say that, guys, just let's lay it on the table. So we can't interrupt the speaker. It requires a second. It's not debatable. It's not amendable. It can't be amended. Now here is where we don't want to give so much time. We want to take a quick decision. So once we say that, I move to lay the main motion on the table. So that's it. We go for the voting by majority and lay it on the table. It's done quickly. Someone has started to draw on the screen. The last 2 workshops, when I allowed that, there were some amazing messages. So people who are in this workshop, who have been there in my previous workshop, know what was coming up. So I would request the host to go ahead and rub if they want to. So the privilege motions. Middle East has a lot of dark secrets. So Philippines, don't get surprised. Nomail can tell you stories. That's why I'm saying, watch on the drawings, guys. Privilege motions. Call for orders of the day. Now, privilege motions are really having that privilege. I'm just looking at the time. Okay, time is good. Privilege motions have that privilege, I would say, in the world of motions. One thing I need to tell you, in this book, which is the 11th edition, it's not just 23 motions. There are quite many, okay? 23 is enough for us to have a regular meeting. Not also 23, you just need to know a few of them. But the privilege stands on the top. They are the most important motions. Let's go from, for the privilege motion, again in the order of priority, which is 5 is the most important one. 1 is of less priority. So don't go by the numbers there. Call to order for the orders of the day. You're just telling the president might have missed something. An item has been missed, and a member have noticed that I think the item has been skipped. For example, just an example, old business has been skipped. We go to a new business, and here is where somebody can say, "Chair, I call for the orders of the day." You know, so here is where the chair can check what's the issue and accept it or not accept it. Raise a question of privilege. We are lost somewhere, or we are not understanding, or the motion is not quite clear to us. It's kind of complicated. Or somebody was debating and didn't give a very logical reason, or maybe the reason was logical and I was slow to understand. Here is where I can raise a question of privilege. This is one of the examples. I call for a recess. I used this motion once in a district council. I saw there was a debate going on. They weren't reaching anywhere, and it was taking a lot of time. And people who attended the council that year, we were still 7 countries. No, we were not 8, but we were 7 countries. So here is where I got up and I said, I moved to go for a recess. And we went for a recess, sorted out differences, and came back and had a good meeting. And everybody was happy, enjoying the council then. Adjourn. This is tried by a lot of parliamentary experts, some good smart people who just adjourn, and I've seen this, only to realize majority of the people sitting at the house or the chair does not know that there is something stronger than this. Excuse me, we don't adjourn, but we fix a time to adjourn. Okay? Let's go quickly understanding each one of them. Now, some of them you will notice there's no vote required because the chair is the one who decides to overrule or to accept it. Okay, so let's look at the call, just a quick glance. Call for the orders of the day to require adherence to the agenda, or we must get back to the agenda. We are kind of lost somewhere. The speaker can be interrupted, no second required, no debate, no amendments. Okay, it's all the chair who can take the decision there. Raise a question of privilege. For example, it permits a request relating to the rights of the group or its members to be brought up for possible immediately or immediate consideration. Sorry about the typo. So here is where I can raise a question of privilege. For example, if I feel this motion is going to be not in line with the national law, for example, I can just raise a question of privilege or show my concern there that do we know what we are doing here, for example, or maybe I will be personally affected by it. For example, I mean, as I was saying, in the Middle East, we have another 45 minutes almost to go to break our fast. And if this was a business session and we are almost in the last hour, I would just raise a question of privilege. How long is this going to take? Just a question. You know, I'm not saying to extend the debate. I'm not saying to limit the debate. I just want to raise a question of privilege. Okay, here are some examples. I rise to a question of privilege affecting the assembly. The member will state, okay, the president, the member will state her question. It is difficult for those of us in the back of the room to hear the speaker. Would she please use the microphone? For example, this is a question of privilege. Let's look at another example. I cannot hear in the back of the room. May I move my chair closer to the front? The president decides, yes, you may, no, you can't. Front, only dignitaries. Rarely happens in Toastmasters, but just in case. Recess, again, used by many experts. I used it once. Madam, Mr. President, I move that meeting recess. I move that meeting recess for 5 minutes, or we go for a recess for 5 minutes. A motion has been made that we take a 5 minutes recess. Those in favor say aye. Those who are not in favor say nay. Majority of the votes are required. This is not debatable, but it can be amended. Someone could strike off 5 and say 10, for example. It can be amended. And this is to adjourn the meeting. Mr. and Madam President, I move to adjourn. Okay, or I move to adjourn the meeting. So once that's done, it has to be seconded, no debate, no amendment, just vote. You see? But here is a, that was, I would say, the virus, and this is the antivirus. This is how we fix it. Fix the time to which to adjourn. So chairs or the presidents, incoming district directors or district leaders or club leaders, that's a very important one for you to know. Now, these are the motions, the third categories, the third category which we need to know in the world of parliamentary procedures. They don't have any specific order, okay? They don't kind of affect the any main motion directly. They just could affect the way the business session is going, the way we are having our proceedings in the meeting. So let's look at them. Point of order, appeal, point of information, suspension of rules, object or to consideration of the question, division of the question, consideration by paragraph, division of assembly. Let me explain some of them which we actually use in Toastmasters. Point of order is a very famous one. We feel that the president lost track or somebody is kind of not speaking on the motion, but speaking about some other subject. So any member can get up, paid member can get up and say, or member of the council, for example, point of order, Madam President. Here they can just continue with what they want to say. It's not necessary. The chair can just say, sorry, I don't accept it. When we got introduced to parliamentary procedures in the Middle East, years back from now, point of order became like a very famous thing. Everybody was doing so many point of orders. Some of you might be laughing who were there back then. So everybody wanted to show, I know better than the chair, or I know so much. Point of order, chair. I sometimes, just to be humorous, and this is what I saw. Point of order, chair, and they get up, adjust their tie, or come up with a smile, and then actually state their point of order, just to show, okay, it's this new hero in the town who knows it all. So this really happens, and I saw this happening in the council many a times. We can appeal to the chair in case the chair did not accept my point of order or what I had to say. I raised the question of privilege, for example. The chair said, no, I can still appeal to the chair. Please, can you understand? Please, can you look into this? I can ask for point of information, something I missed out. I can ask for this. I can say, let's suspend the rules for a while. And here majority has to vote as well for suspension of rules. It's 2/3, not the majority, it's 2/3. So here is where, for example, if we feel that we cannot conduct the business session due to our past experiences, due to some house rules that we follow. So can we just suspend the rules for now? And if 2/3 agree, then we can continue normally. So we'll come to each one. Division of question, for example, I was giving you an example. We got a lot of articles. We wanted to amend the standing rules of our club. So we had a lot of articles, divided them properly. Members who make a lot of hours and rooms, the DTMs pay this much. Okay, members, normal members who cross 10 hours pay this much. Okay, so we got it as a bunch, but we separated them. Hadn't we separated them, somebody could say, can we divide it, please, for us to vote on each one of them separately or understand them, each one separately. Consideration by paragraph is also same thing. Your motion is quite big. It affects the whole lot of one-page document. So you can, for example, segregate them, and then understand each one separately. Division of assembly, sometimes you don't know who's saying aye, who's saying nay. You can ask for division of assembly, and there is where the chair can say, okay, those who are in favor, please rise. Those who are not in favor, please keep seated. So that's what happens, and the admin manager or the club secretary don't have to count each one by head. If it's a huge meeting, they can just guess what happened just now. People who are standing are in favor. People who are sitting are not in favor. Now, you might be thinking, at times, should I say the whole thing? Should I actually say, people who are in favor, just rise? Okay, and don't say the next. People who are not in favor, just keep seated. So different chairs, we can do this way. People who are in favor, please rise. Okay, you may sit. People who are not in favor, now you rise. So we need to specify these things, else audience will be kind of confused. They might be waiting, okay, what happens to the nay sayers? Should we be seated, or will we be called to rise later? So complete the whole sentence, okay? For example, the easy one for me is, people who are in favor, stand up. People who are not in favor, be seated, please. So it's quite clear for both sides. Point of order, example, point of order, Madam President or Mr. President can say, state your point. And it is ruled by the chair. Division of assembly, a member says, I call for division of assembly. And this is where the president can say, okay, those who are in favor stand, those who are not, be seated. Just an example, different chairs have their own style. Request or inquiries, point of information. Madam President, I rise to a parliamentary inquiry. No, or Mr. President, I rise to a parliamentary inquiry. The member will state the inquiry. Is it in order to, the president would say, the member will state the inquiry now, or please go ahead and state your inquiry. The president can say, is it in order to move the previous question now? We have to understand, can we say the previous question now, because there might be a motion stronger than that on the floor. So we need to be familiar with that chart. Appeal, we can appeal to the chair to try to reverse the ruling. My appeal wasn't accepted. My point of order wasn't accepted, for example. And I can say to the chair, I appeal, please have a look at it once again. Okay, probably if you make an emotional face at that time, maybe the chair might change his or her mind, just the same. Suspend the rules, as I explained. We notice things are not working, or it's not going to work, even this meeting, fine for us if we follow certain house rules. So let us suspend the rules for now. For example, we made a rule once in a club, for example, that people who don't attend 3 meetings are not active members for us. They can't vote. So here, what do? I just say, let's suspend that rule, since we are the ones who created it. Let us suspend. There are anyway active members in the TI roster. So let us just go by 2/3 to accept, can we suspend that rule? And then follow the normal proceedings just for this meeting, because there are lack of active members today in the house. So maybe we would want to do that. It's just an example I'm giving. Marcie?
Yes.
I hope I'm not talking to myself. Okay, thanks, Marcie. You know, I had that fear. I hope chat is being looked at as well. Maybe some people are sending questions. This is where I want to segregate the motion. I want to consider it by sections. So if it is voted by majority, we can divide the motion in different sections and discuss that. Now, this is an important motion, rescind, to nullify a motion which was previously adopted. We adopted a motion few meetings back, and then we realized because of COVID-19, that motion is no longer going to help us, for example. So what do? We can say, let's nullify that motion which was previously adopted. But once that happens, if the motion is seconded, it is on the floor, then we need 2/3 of the people to vote for that motion to get it accepted. Because if we don't do that, if we don't go for two-thirds, this is my understanding, if we don't go for two-thirds, we will make it like a trend. We adopt motions, and then after 2-3 meetings, we just delete them. We just come up with resending the motion or saying, can we just nullify what was previously adopted? It shouldn't become a joke. As I was saying, the house rules, which we make in our Toastmasters meetings, though it's a non-profit organization, but what we learn here, it reflects us as Toastmasters in our professional career, in our personal lives as well. So if we try to play around with motions, adopting, canceling them, our guests who have been attending the meeting, all the new members, won't respect us as a club for doing that. And for example, in district councils, if you make a motion, it's very hard to go back and correct it, because you need to get 2/3 of the people in attendance, whether virtual council, physical council, to actually delete that motion or nullify it. Now, suppose the motion is going on, or the motion is done, the meeting is not adjourned. Here is where we can bring it back for review. But there is a rule on this, that the people who were in favor of this motion can do that immediately. If the admin manager or secretary knows, okay, these people, when we said I got up, or this was the main drive behind that motion, if they come back and say, you know what, yes, we did a mistake, so can we just bring it back this time? We discussed, we had a recess, we felt it's not going to work, so sorry about that. Can we reconsider? But the rule is, it should come from the people who are supporting it, or the person who was supporting it, or the team behind it. Okay, they can bring it back to reconsider. And if majority agrees, we can bring it back, debate about it again, and see whether we want to accept it or reject it. Object to consideration, to avoid unprofitable questions, something which is not benefiting the house, which is not benefiting the motion, and we see it's going for long. One person is getting up and trying to simply show that they are speaking on the motion, but they want to speak about some other issue which is benefiting only to them, but not to the house. So this point can be used. I don't see it used much so far in many clubs, but it's always better to know. Division of a question, you can divide the question in 2 or 3 parts to make it easier for the audience to understand. Maybe in this club, it's a newly chartered club, and 5 members from this club are in the XCOM, for example, and they know the rules, they know how things work, but 90% of your audience, they don't know. So maybe somebody would say, can we divide the question to better understand it? Now let's look at this screen very carefully. This is for a layman to understand what to do when. To present an idea for consideration or action, main motion or resolution, consider subject informally. Okay, so main motion is the only way when we want to present the idea. To improve a pending motion, we can use amend, or we can use division of the question. And this is where I was preparing the Kahoot.it game with everybody on the call today. But then when I saw it's 1 hour presentation, we cannot do that. And because we lost some time in the beginning, so good I didn't prepare the whole thing. But this was supposed to go in a game format to everybody on the attendance. So let's have a look on it quickly, take a screenshot. For example, if I say enforce rights and privileges, division of assembly is a good motion, division of the question, parliamentary inquiry, point of order, appeal from the decision of the chair. Okay, if I want to terminate a meeting, I know what I should do. If I want to make sure that we finish it off fast in a quick fashion, I can say suspend the rules. Lay it on the table, guys. I just saw a dignitary coming in, or dignitaries coming in. A VIP called me and said he or she is on the way. So let's suspend the rules, lay it on the table. Okay? Delay a decision, refer to a committee, postpone definitely, postpone indefinitely. indefinitely is kind of silently killing the motion. I'm not, it gives an ill feeling whenever this motion has been used, postponed indefinitely. If it is adopted, the people who are in favor of this motion or who brought this motion um, kind of get that ill feeling, okay? That it's just postponed indefinitely. We don't know when it's coming back, you know, I mean, till when we are going to go in this loop. So these, I hope you took a screenshot of this. Thank you very much. And now I'm open to questions. Marcie, District Director, over to you.
Thank you
Our
so
region,
much, Region Advisor Ali. That was such a comprehensive and detailed workshop on parliamentary procedure. Thank you so much for such wonderful information. Now, originally on the agenda, I'm supposed to give some feedback, some remarks of my own and start with the first question. But since we did get a little delayed, I would like to just jump right into our audience questions, if that's okay with you. So if you'd like to ask a question, please feel free to send a message to one of the co-hosts in the group, or you can raise your hand, which I'm not actually seeing on the sidebar here. We do have our first question. Our first question comes from Rafiq Ahmed, who asks, can we raise a motion to cancel a motion before, what I'm assuming, the original motion is seconded on the floor? Can we raise a motion to cancel a motion before the original motion is seconded on the floor?
So can we raise a motion once again?
Can we raise a motion to cancel the motion before the original motion has been seconded?
Yeah, Rafiq, that's not possible because if you don't have a main motion, you don't have a base to discuss anything. Okay, so the main motion is number 13 in the chart of motions, which has given to us by Toastmasters International. So if number 13 does not go in, the 12 above that is not going to be applied anyway. That's not going to be possible.
All right, thank you very much. I have a question coming from Diane Reynolds. Is it compulsory that the business session happens before the education session?
Oh, why not? I mean, if the club culture is so that they want the business session before the education session, absolutely fine. Many clubs do that. We do it in our club, in my home club. That's what we do. So there's no issues with that. The moment the president begins the meeting, the chair begins the meeting, the agenda is adopted. So it's like the president calls the meeting to order. We are in order from that time itself. Our education, our structure in Toastmasters is that we have the educational session infused in that structure, but that does not mean the whole meeting becomes like a joke. Just because a business session is a separate part, it's serious, but the whole meeting is serious. I cannot go after the business session and switch between table topics and keep the GE later and switch things because the agenda was adopted, and that has to be respected unless someone in the house says, you know, to suspend the rules, for example, or just can we ignore what we have adopted before the agenda and switch the table topics or cancel the table topics, for example. But yes, to go back to the question, business session can be before the educational session.
All right, thank you. And additionally, do the minutes have to be read out or summarized in the meeting if they've already been circulated amongst the members prior to the meeting?
Well, it's not a rule. In district councils, yes, that's a rule which you will have to go back to the leadership book. If you are a district leader, you should know that, yes, the council minutes have to be sent, reports have to be sent. Now, with the virtual district councils, there is a 14 days time limit for all the reports to be sent. In the club meeting, it's all up to you. It's a good practice to send the report, but if your club wants to read the report and get it approved there, that's also fine. So you'll have to check the club leadership book or the district leadership handbook on what it says.
Excellent. Thank you. We have lots of questions coming in. These are great questions. So from Toastmaster April, if the agenda has been emailed with the time allotment for the meeting, is there a need to move to fix the time to adjourn? So if the agenda has already been sent out with the time allotments for the meeting already included, must you have a motion to fix the time to adjourn the meeting?
It's a good question, a very common one. Now, before the meeting begins, it's always good to adopt the agenda once. I see that a lot of approvals go in and out. Can someone move a motion to approve the agenda? Well, that's not a must. The chair can just say, with all the changes, we adopt the agenda. In favor of time, I'll just count till 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, the agenda is adopted. These are some ways to save the time. Now, if the agenda is adopted, regardless of it being sent by email, if the agenda is adopted, then we need to follow the agenda. If we notice that the meeting is shooting high or it will go overtime, somebody can move a motion to ask to extend the meeting time. Now, that's something which is not related to a motion. It's more related to the House. So I can ask for an extension.
Okay, thank you so much. Great questions coming in. I'm just going to check and see what time we're going to have for the question and answer session. Originally, we had allotted 30 minutes. So we started at about, it was about 11:50 my time. So we're going to go till about midnight 20 my time, if that's okay with everyone.
Wow.
And of course, Region Advisor Ali, if you get tired, please let me know and we can.
I'm totally fine. You know, with fasting, our growth hormones goes high and cortisol goes down. So I'm totally fine.
Okay. From the District 75 PRM, how do we handle a disruptive member who knows how to use parliamentary procedure? We have we've had some of these.
Once again?
We've had a few of these too. So how do you handle a disruptive member?
Well, that's a good question coming in from the PR, and all the best to you when you go back in the council, because people are listening to that question now, Mr. PR. So here is what you need to do is, we need to create awareness for people, for chairs, for presidents, to come towards understanding the basics of parliamentary procedures. Over the years, I've seen people who attend workshops, but not everybody wants to understand everything. That's okay, but we need to understand when we are going to chair a session, what we need to do. Now, if this member is very smart, is disruptive, I just went through a list of parliamentary procedures. You can also initiate in the meeting, where you make sure that nobody calls it, nobody makes it like it's their show and they know it all, and they can play along. Members of the council, or majority of them, or the chair, or the office members, they should know the procedures as well. With all the motions we studied today, mostly you might have noticed, it really protects everybody. If we really understand these 23 motions, or most of them, for sure, there won't be any problems to have proper meetings. The only problem which you will have is what the majority wants. If the majority wants to go with that disruptive member, then we can't do anything. The numbers play the magic here. So what the World Convention does, when they want us to vote for option A or option B, the World Convention sends us the motions with the details and gives us the choice, every club in the world, to vote yes or vote no. And if they are giving this to their district director, they have a choice what they want to say. And that district director, when they go to the convention, they have to make sure they, with all keeping the core values, they go by the tick which the club has made to go for the option B or not go for option B. So in district councils, for all these matters on DLC, other reports, finance reports, where there are chances where members will create some disruptions, it's the council's, it's the office job to educate their council members that why we are introducing this, or why we are shifting area club from area A to area B. These are some benefits. So I don't think so. Then it should be a problem. Create more awareness. But somebody very much destructive, that goes in the nature. We can't do much about it. If Toastmasters can't change anyone, then I have no comments.
I agree with you 100%. Speaking from experience in my own district, I've learned that knowledge really is power, and it really does help cut down on those what we would maybe call disruptions, but really it's just people don't understand. And if we can help them understand, they're much more likely to accept it, or at least to be okay with it. So
Exactly.
setting
And
out and talking.
I see a lot going on behind your smile, Marcie, for some reason. So well, you can
Oh,
continue. It's okay.
okay. Our next question, and this is a good question as well. Is it necessary for the chair to acknowledge the person who seconds the motion?
No. It's just better in a huge setup. For example, if it is a district council, for the admin manager to make sure that the person who seconded their name is there in the minute. That's why the trend is when somebody's seconding the motion, just quickly say your name, which club, and I second. But if it is a small club, there are less people, the secretary who's taking the minutes know the seconding person is who. So they don't have to get up and tell their own people, my name is so-and-so. So that's fine.
I agree with that too, and it depends on the forum that you're in, just to help out who making the minutes of the day. If it's a large group, of course, please say and acknowledge, and if it's a smaller group, you don't necessarily have to do that. This question gets into a little bit of philosophy, I feel. If
Mhm.
parliamentary procedure is about the rule of the majority, how do we make sure we protect the rights of the minority?
Well, the parliamentary procedures clearly says the minority, they have the right to be heard. The minority are heard for any motion, no matter even if 90% of the audience, they are against the motion presented by the minority. But the chair will anyway bring two speakers from one side and two from the other side. It's not going to happen that in the majority side, five speakers will be coming, and in the minority, two speaker comes. So it's equal opportunity, both sides. If the minority is good in convincing that, see, guys, this is the wisdom behind it. Maybe I have personally seen people change their mind. And this is where debating skills comes in. I attended one last week, a debating session that was amazing. So I got some new insights. So for introverts, please learn debating skills if you are going more towards parliamentary procedures.
All right, thank you so much. From Toastmaster Kathleen, what is the difference between a call for the order of the day, which is a privileged motion, and point of order, which is an incidental motion?
Could you repeat that again? Um,
Sure. What is the difference between call for the order of the day, which is a privileged motion, and point
mhm.
of order, which is an incidental motion?
Well, point of order, it can be, it's like call for the orders of the day would be um, if that motion, which is number 13, it's on the floor, at that time, somebody has brought up something else or something is skipped, for example, there is where call to order can come. Point of information, point of order is can be for anything, whether motion is there or not. It can be the chair forgot to for example, recognize a dignitary, or I mean, the chair skipped a session completely. Here is where somebody can raise point of order. Or in like in one of the councils, I saw the parliamentarian. He took the mic and he started speaking. Uh, Without the permission, parliamentarians don't have to speak. It's the district director. They just give their address and they advise the district director. Parliamentarians don't talk to the people. So in one of the councils, I saw the parliamentarian actually took the mic and started talking to the people on a motion which was on the floor. So here is where somebody got up and said, point of order. Parliamentarian cannot speak. We are talking to the district director, not the parliamentarian. and it was a respectable figure. So the parliamentarian apologized. So here is where we can say point of order. We cannot say call for the orders of the day in this situation. So these are some thin line differences.
Okay, thank you so much. From our PRM again, what happens if we lose quorum in the middle of the meeting? Can we still proceed?
Now, if the quorum is lost, we started the meeting, we can continue. It's fine, especially if in a district council. We just meet twice a year. We cannot have councils every other day and wait for quorums. So we start the meeting, quorum established. Now, if some people left the quorum on purpose, they walked out of the house, they lose their rights to debate. They lose their rights to talk. So here is what is recommended. If the quorum breaks later, somewhere at the end of the meeting, mid of the meeting, we continue with the session. But where it was noticed the quorum has been broken, those motions, or if there was an election for division directors and the quorum was not there, we continue, we elect, and then send this portion by email to all the council members or to the voting members to vote by email, yes, no, or abstain.
Oh, it's a very complicated process. In my district, we are a very small district, so quorum is always a very stressful thing for us. So thank you for speaking on that. Another question that has come in. During the district council, is the district director allowed to vote in favor or against a motion on the floor?
Oh yes, the district director has one vote. Sometimes the district director can be a VP head or president of a club also. So they have the right to vote, but they don't actually debate on things. They have to give the seat to somebody else, go down on the floor and debate, but they have a vote.
Thank you very much. On Zoom, would you agree that a parliamentarian may have to publicly address the chair if the chair is unable to confer privately? This is a great question, especially with our online meetings nowadays. So how should a parliamentarian handle this situation?
Well, when I was a parliamentarian recently, as you know, Marcie, we have been told as region advisors not to be parliamentarians or judge or chief judges in district conferences. So to give more opportunities, which I really agree with. So I stepped down as parliamentarian from a few district councils which were supposed to take place. But I remember I was parliamentarian in one of the district ExCom. So here is where there was no other choice. I used my WhatsApp, but when I saw the chair was not responding on the WhatsApp, I had to unmute my mic and for the benefit of the district, advise the chair to do the needful. Yeah, but again, the parliamentarians should not thrash out the chair. Mm-hmm. Okay, they are just advisors. At times we see they're trying to kind of show, excuse me, chair, you're not doing it right. You know, there should be a certain tone. Parliamentarians are appointed by the chair, not to become the chair themselves. They are more like advisors. Yes. So we got to respect while advising.
And like you said, it's not necessarily what we say, but it's how we say it that's really important.
I agree, Marcie.
So we just need to be aware of the words that we're using and the tone that we're using with it. April is asked on Zoom, how are votes cast? Do you raise your hand? Is there a text in a chat box? What is the most ideal? And I don't think we have districts that do their votes in Zoom exactly. Do you know of any?
I know a district which did a district council on Zoom. Now, Zoom has one feature called user management voting, where even if there are 500 people on Zoom, the 100 people will only see the voting option and they can vote. If that feature is good, they can install that feature, or I would say they can work around that feature is great. One of the district councils which I saw just did it on basic Zoom poll. So what they did is they told the members of the council to put their camera on. There was a credentials check when they came in. Nobody else was allowed to get in except dignitaries and the voting members, and all the rest could watch it on Facebook Live. Mm-hmm. So that's okay if you want to go that direction. But remember, in Zoom polling, there is an option, anonymous. We got to click that option. So the host cannot see who is voting for whom.
And District Director Ann has also chimed in and said that District 75 casted their votes through poll on Zoom as well. I know that my district, District 93, had their council meeting yesterday, and they had the council members, including the presidents and VPEs, in the Zoom meeting, and spectators could watch via YouTube. They broadcast it on YouTube, and then the elections themselves were cast through Election Runner, which was an email sent out to all of the voting members that had gone through the credentials. So there's a variety of different ways to conduct voting through online platforms. And I think Toastmasters has actually recommended some on the site, or that they send out to the club officers when it comes time for that season.
There are some good ones, Election Runner, Election Buddy, and now in Middle East, Election e-Balloter is gaining a lot of momentum. It's the quickest one I've ever seen.
Oh, really?
I mean, I saw a council just few days back where we stayed for 7 hours. 7 hours. And I saw another council with bigger number of voters, 500 plus, finished it in 3 hours. That was just because of the tool which they chose. So, yeah.
Even my district, we had a DJ playing while they waited for the results. So, I mean, it was...
Oh, yeah.
April continues about the voting. She asks, is that supposed to be moved, or can the body agree on the method, or maybe should the body agree on the method to be used?
Now, see, in the districts which I attended as the region advisor, not as parliamentarian, they did a few mocks with the council. Like they did, I know one district which did 2 mocks, one district did 1 mock 2-3 days before the actual council to make sure everybody is in line, they're happy with it. But if somebody is not happy with the voting system, they have 14 days time according to the virtual council rules. When the first notice is sent, when the agenda is sent, you have 14 days time to lodge in your protest, your complaint, which can be answered by the district. And if you are still not happy, you can say it on that day. What's the voting system for the day? I protested and I'm not convinced. But again, try not to go there, because all these voting systems, you can recommend, can we do a mock? It's better, because we need to understand the point here. The district office can't do miracles at the same time. If on the day of the council you say, guys, I'm not happy, what will happen then? There's no other way. So you can, I recommend all the districts to have a mock session with your council members, so they're convinced, and you can take suggestions from them. Maybe they will say something is missing. Now, I attended many mock sessions, and this is where I found Election Buddy, e-Balloter going one of the best I've ever seen so far. Yeah. So Marcie, we'll take one last question for the day.
Sounds great.
Okay? Yeah.
I'm all for that. That was actually all of our questions so far.
Oh, great.
So does anyone have one final question for our speaker today? We're going to do a countdown from 3, 2, question. Okay. How do we manage filibustering?
Okay, how do we manage filibustering? Now, can somebody translate filibustering into a more easier word? Or our grammarian Nomail can help us do that?
A filibuster is a consistent talking on a subject without getting to the question itself.
Now, here is where the chair has the power of the gavel, okay, to create order in the house. If somebody is just going to be very talkative, not listen, this role of sergeant at arms is very important in the district council, the role of logistics manager. And this I've personally seen in district council, but being virtual, it's very good. The host, the district director can just order to mute their mic. So if they don't respect the council, in a physical council, the sergeant at arms can kindly escort them outside. And I've seen this happening. And in virtual, it's a blessing that we can just mute the mic. hope I could answer the question.
Beautiful, beautifully done, I think. So thank you so much for your time tonight. I believe that everyone was able to learn so much about parliamentary procedure. I was as well. It brought me back to my high school days where I studied parliamentary procedure. Those were very difficult times. So thank you for reviewing that for me. To conclude, I do think everyone should have the opportunity to learn about parliamentary procedure, especially if you're going to be in leadership. It's very important to have at least a very minute working knowledge of this so that you're not caught off guard and you know how to run the meeting. So with that, I would like to once again thank our speaker tonight, Region Advisor from Region 11, Ali, for giving us his time and his knowledge. And I would like to ask our organizer, District 75, Division K Director, Gascon, to wrap things up for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Marcie. Hi, Ed.
Thank you so much, RA Marcie. Thank you for hosting our event. RA Ali, thank you so much for gracing our event and our workshop for District 75 Division K. And we have learned so much, and really parliamentary procedure is really important for all of us, especially if you are really a leader. So with that, fellow Toastmasters, thank you so much for joining us this evening. And as Division K Director, I officially adjourn this workshop.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Let's take a picture.
Yeah, let's take a picture.
Everyone, please turn on your cameras. Assuming you're not in your pajamas.
Hey, I got to see Dave finally.
We're gonna have to take a couple of shots. We have 2 screens here, so I'll do 2 screenshots each. So our first screen, everyone's just gonna strike a pose, and when I tell you to change the pose, then change the pose, okay? So turn on your cameras, and we're gonna take a picture in. Everyone smile. 3, 2, 1. That's 1 right there, and 1 more. And next one, keep smiling, look nice, smile big. Yay! Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Nomel. Thank you, Ed.
My pleasure, Ari. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Nice job.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
We'll go ahead and send those screenshots.
Good job, Marcie.